Okay, good evening, everybody. Let me just get rid of this. Okay, it's Monday night, so it's Parshat Vayishlach. So, at the beginning of the Parsha, in Parak Lamed Beis, Pasuk Dalet, all the way at the beginning, the first Pasuk, in fact, says, Vayishlach Yaakov Malachim. Yaakov sent messengers, or we don't know what it means. There's two opinions, actually, what Malachim means. Some opinions say is actually angels. Because in the end of last week's Parsha, it says the angels met Yaakov, when he came back from Lavan's house. So then they say, Vayishlach Yaakov Malachim were angels. And other people say, no, it means messengers. Malachim in Chumash, many times, the word Malach, Moshe Rabbeinu sent messengers. So it actually does not necessarily have to mean angels. But Rashi says, Malachim Mamish, actual angels. So there's a question that the commentaries ask, why did he have to bother angels to go to Esav? He couldn't take people. I mean, you have to, angels are busy. It's very interesting. People don't even think about this. But, Friday night you come home from shul, you say Shalom Aleichem, right? You're welcoming the angels. You say Shalom Aleichem 3 times, Baruch Hu Shalom 3 times, Baruch Hu Shalom 3 times, and then you say Tzeitzchem Shalom, goodbye. I mean, you didn't even make Kiddush yet, you're already sending them home. No, the commentators talk about this. Well, the commentators have said that. The angels didn't even come to your house. You invited them for some, like Avraham Avinu, invited the angels in to give him food. So it says, the Rebbe says once that for angels, time is very precious. There's no time to hang around. They came home, they did their mission, they accompanied you home, they saw a Shabbos stick a table, they give you a bracha, and they leave. So the question is, why did Yaakov Avinu bother the real angels to come and do this when he could have sent regular people? What's the union of sending angels? So simply the answer is, because it was dangerous to send people. He didn't know what Esav is going to do to them. He might kill them, right? He didn't know if Esav is good, bad. He was hoping he'd be good. But meanwhile, they would even kill him. So therefore, some commentators say that's why he sent angels, because angels are safe. Okay, another answer, which is more what I want to talk about a little bit, is Yaakov's mission now, going to Esav, is a very, very lofty mission. We've discussed already Yaakov and Esav are twins. One symbolizes good, one symbolizes bad. Esav was the firstborn. Kabbalah and Chassidic explain Esav came from a higher level of Yaakov Avinu, and the sparks of Esav were so high, and therefore they fell so low, and the evil. And our whole mission in life is to elevate the sparks of Esav that fell into the world into permissible things that Torah allows us to do, and we elevate them. And Yitzchak, we learned in Parshat, told us Yitzchak tried elevating Esav. He said, "Let me give him a bracha, elevate him." That didn't work. So now Yaakov Avinu says in Kabbalah over here in Chassidus that Yaakov Avinu wanted to elevate Esav. And he thought by sending him gifts, he'll be able to, he thought Esav was ready to be fine. And then the Malachim come back and says, he's out with 400 men, he was coming to kill you. And it's interesting, I don't want to get into it now, but in Chassidus and Kabbalah it says, the 400 men of Esav correspond with the 400 shekel kesef that Avraham Avinu paid for Mars Machpelah, and he paid from over Lasocher, very lofty levels of the 400 shekel that Avram paid Ephron for the Martha Machpelah, and this represents the mamish, the opposite of it, the evil forces. But Yaakov wanted to elevate Esav, okay, and therefore he sent malachim mamish, he sent angels, because it's a very spiritual, lofty job to be able to elevate Esav. Esav represents evil, to elevate Esav. And especially in a higher level to transform him to Kedusha is a very difficult thing. Okay, and that's what he wanted to do. So for that mission, Yaakov Avinu felt he needs angels, because angels is what's going to do it. He needs the angels to elevate that thing. But it's interesting, Rashi says the expression Malachim Mamish. Simply it means, real angels. Mamish, real angels. So the Mizritcher Magid, whose yahrzeit is Yutas Kislev, the 19th of Kislev, which is it's the day the Alter Rebbe got out of prison. It's the day that the Mizritcher Magid's yahrzeit was Yutas Kislev. So usually Vayishlach is around Yutas Kislev time. So the last Shabbos of the Mizritcher Magid's life, he translated this and he said, Malachim Mamish means like this. He sent the Mamish of the Malachim, I'll explain in a second, but the essence of the angels he kept by himself. Meaning like this. Mamish means the tangible, the lower level of the angels. Yaakov Avinu sent Malachim to elevate Esav. He sent the external levels, the Mamoshes, means the tangible level of the angels, the lower level of the angels, he sent to refine Esav. But the essence of the angels, this is what the Mizritcher Magid said, the Saturday night, the Shabbos before he passed away. He said the essence of the angels he kept by himself. What does this mean? Everything it has to be in a practical way. Okay. There's a pasuk the Mishnah in Pikra, it brings down. It says like this: Yegia kapecho kisochel ashrecha v'tevlach. If you work with the yegia kapecho, if the effort of your hands, your palms, kisochel, if you eat from the work of your palm, meaning you work for a living, ashrecha v'tevlach. But it's brought down. The Rebbe mentions this many times. The expression in that pasuk that the Mishnah quotes is Yegia kapecha. Kapecha means your hands, not your head. In other words, what the Mishnah is saying in a deeper sense, let's speak very open, so to speak. A person has a job, a business, okay? So sometimes people get so carried away making a living, they forget the whole purpose of why they're making a living. They're so involved in the money, and that's all they're interested in. They forget they have a wife, they forget they have children, they forget they have a family, they forget that they have a Shabbos. I mean, it's like everything they're forgetting the primary thing. So therefore, what is the pasuk saying? Yegia kapecha. If your hands work, but your head the purpose of it. Of course, you need to use your head in business. But the goal, the focus is not in the business. The focus is how you want to live like a Jew. Have a family, keep Shabbos, education, Jewish education, all these things. That's what the pasuk is saying. Yegia kapecho kiseichel. If you work with your hands, but your mind, is in the purpose of the business, then a person's very fortunate. There's a story with the Tzemach Tzedek. The Tzemach Tzedek had a chassid that was a boot maker. He made boots. And this chassid wasn't a great chassid, but he was very, very into his business. So he once came to the Tzemach Tzedek, the third Rebbe, and the Tzemach Tzedek said to him, it's interesting. I've always seen feet in boots. But a head in boots, that I have never seen. He said, your whole head, your whole focus is in your boot making. You forget about you're focusing on the wrong thing. And this is what Yaakov Avinu is teaching us. Malachim mamish. You're going to do Esav. You're going out into the world. Esav doesn't only represent Esav. A Jew is going out into the business world. That's Esav. Okay? And you want to elevate Esav. You don't want to be ruined by Esav. So, you have to understand where is the goal. The goal is, like we said last week, Ephraim was greater than Menashe, but Ephraim means to be fruitful in Egypt. But in order to be fruitful in Egypt, you have to have Menashe. Don't forget where you came from. Don't forget what the purpose and the focus of life should be. It should be in higher things. And that's what the Maggid was meaning by saying, Malachim Mamish. The tangible level of the Malachim, the lower level, the hands of the Malachim, so to speak, he sent to Esav, but actually the actual thing itself he kept for himself. Okay, another thing in Pasuk Lamed, Perek Lamed Beis Pasuk Ches, it says, and the Malachim came back and they told him that Esav is, he hates your guts. He's coming with 400 men, So it said, Vayira Yaakov Me'od Vayetzalei. Yaakov Avinu was afraid and he was oppressed. So all the commentaries ask, that doesn't make sense. Hashem promised Yaakov Avinu, I'm going to return you home to your father's home. In the dream. V'shavti b'sholem al beis avi. Okay? Hashem told him when he was leaving Lavan's house, go home, I'm going to protect you. Yeah? Yaakov Avinu was a believer. And now, Yaakov Avinu is scared that he's going to get killed or he might kill. Why all of a sudden is Yaakov Avinu? He lacked faith in Hashem, trust in Hashem. Why is he not, why is he fearful? So the Mefarsh answer two things. Number one, because right after this it says, Ki b'makli avardi asayardin hazeh, in Pasuk Yud Aleph, Ato yisi l'shnei machanes. I came with my stick because Eliphaz, Esav's son, when Yaakov ran away, so Esav wanted to kill him. So it says in the Medrash, Rashi quotes by the way, but it says in the Medrash that Esav sent his son Eliphaz to go kill Yaakov. The problem is, Eliphaz liked Yaakov very much. They were very close. He was his uncle. He loved him very much. He didn't want to kill him. So he comes to, the Medrash says, he comes to Yaakov Avinu. He says, Uncle Jack, that was me, Uncle Jack. He said, I got a problem. My father wants me to kill you, but I don't want to. What should I do?
Take all my stuff.
So he said, take all my properties, everything I own, because he went with a lot of goods, like Eliezer did to find the shidduch. He went and he said, and a poor man is called dead. A poor man is considered dead, the Gemara says. So therefore you tell him you killed me. Okay, so he did that. So the only thing Yaakov Avinu came was with makli avarti asayardin hazeh. Okay, I only came with this stick. But in a different sense, it means then Yaakov was alone. That's what he says. Originally I came, now I came to two camps that he split. He split everything into two camps. So you're saying, wow, look Hashem, thank you. I came myself, and now look what I have. Tons of, everything. And so the Mefarshim is saying that's what Yaakov Avinu was afraid of. He wasn't afraid about himself. He wasn't afraid that he's, God forbid, is going to get... That Hashem promised him. But Hashem didn't promise everybody else. And that's what he was afraid of. That's the simple meaning of it.
Esav was going to kill everybody?
Huh?
Esav wanted to kill more people? Or just Yaakov?
He wanted to kill them all. Yeah. That's one interpretation. Another interpretation is when Yaakov Avinu said, Kotainti, at the beginning of that same pasuk, Kotainti mikol achsadim, I'm humbled from all the kindness Hashem did. So Rashi says the expression, my merits would diminish through the chesed that Hashem did. That's why I'm afraid. Okay? Because maybe Hashem did so much, we do good deeds, Hashem rewards us. But when you have too many good deeds, you're using up your credit. So Yaakov Avinu was afraid, I used up my credit already with all the chesed that Hashem did, and maybe my sins are going to cause me, Rashi says. Maybe maybe I sinned and I lost all my merits. There's a very famous Gemara in Brachas, I believe it's with Rav Meir's wife. One of the great Tanoim of the Mishnah were very, very poor. And his wife gave him a hard time. She said to understand, all poor people come to you, you help them. You give them a bracha, you give them money. What's with your own family? I mean, come on, how are we worse than everybody else? So the Gemara says he went out into the field and he davened to Hashem, and all of a sudden a hand came out, this is the Gemara says, a hand came out from heaven and handed him a golden leg of a table. Mamish gold, solid gold. Even then, gold was valuable. So he brought it home to his wife. It's Baruch Hashem was set for life. That night, his wife had a dream. The tzaddik's wife had a dream that they're all sitting in Gan Eden with all their friends, and everybody is sitting by a 4-legged table, and they're sitting by a 3-legged table. So she understood that this chesed that Hashem is doing is coming off from somewhere else. It's not just a free-for-all, freebie. So she told her husband, take it back, I don't want it. And the Gemara says an interesting thing. He went back to the field, and he said, God, take it back. A hand came out from heaven and took it back. And the Gemara says that was a bigger miracle than getting the gold, because the Gemara has an expression, in heaven they give, but they don't take back. And here Hashem took it back. Because it was... So this is what Yaakov Avinu was afraid of. Yaakov Avinu was saying, I used up all my schusim. Maybe I'm not going to be meriting Hashem save me like you promised, because all my merits were already my credit limit.
This is common. Like Avraham Avinu, the same thing happened after the
same thing. You're right. Now there's another very strange thing that happened. You go through Chumash, and then you stop to think and say, something doesn't make sense here. Yaakov divides the camp into two. Okay, like Rashi says, he set up for davening, he set up for war, he set up for the the Dara Mincha and Tefillah. He was Muhammad. He was ready to fight. He sent gifts and to appease him, and he was ready to daven. Okay, that's the three things he did. So you can imagine Yaakov Avinu now is about to come to a massive war that Yaakov Avinu was afraid of. And don't forget, his kids were bombas, man. They were strong kids. Shimon and Levi killed our whole city in this week's Parshat. That we'll see about. So, yet, what happened? So it says like this, in Perek Lamed Beis, Pasuk Chafei, he says he took his whole family to the other side. Then it said, Vayivase Yaakov Levadei. Yaakov remained alone. Okay? So Rashi says in the Gemara in Chulin, the Gemara says, why did Yaakov stay back? Shachach pachim ktanim. He forgot some little jugs. Petty items. Okay? He forgot some jugs and he went back to get them. I mean, yes, he was Jewish, granted. But Yaakov Avinu was extremely wealthy. It says in the Pasuk he was extremely wealthy. He's in the middle of a crisis from all sides. And what he did is he went back. He went back for some little jugs. What happened because of that? The Malach of Esav started fighting with him. Why in the world would Yaakov waste time going back for these small jugs? So explanation is, and again, so which is even stranger. The Gemara says, and when the Gemara quotes this, he went back for small jugs. The Gemara says, you know why? Because tzadikim's, listen to this, tzadikim's money is more precious to them than their bodies because they don't steal. Now, if you think about that, taking that Gemara face value, it sounds like Jack Benny.
Yeah.
Your money or your life, well, let me think about it, Yaakov Avinu, what does it mean? Tzaddikim, their money is more precious to them than their body? I mean, come on. You can't, you're talking about Yaakov Avinu. How in the world can you talk that now he had a few jugs? I mean, what in the world is Yaakov thinking about all this? So it's a very interesting thing over here. First of all, before we go into that explanation, Vayivase Yaakov Levadei, Yaakov remained alone. The Mefarshim say this is the Jewish nation is alone. We have no friends. Not America, not England, not France, nobody. We have no friends. A Jew is alone. Even Bilam, when he wanted to curse the Jews, what did he bless him? Am levadod yishkein. It's a nation alone. Okay? Yaakov, the patriarch of Klal Yisrael, is teaching us, you should know, Vayivasa Yaakov levadi, a Jew is always alone. We have no friends. Nobody's around with us. But the thing is like this. We mentioned before that when Yaakov was sending the Malachim to go to Esav, we said because the function of a Jew is to elevate all the sparks of properties that Hashem has and the place where we are. In other words, as follows. There is nothing coincidental. There is nothing that's just haphazardly. Hashem puts a person in a particular place. Hashem gives a person particular possessions. There's a reason for that. Why do I have my possessions and you have your possessions? Right? That's because the possessions Hashem gave me is my mission in life to elevate those possessions that Hashem gave me. It's not to elevate your possessions. It's to elevate my possessions. Why did Hashem give you?
No, but where do we get this connection from?
Hashem gives it to me.
No, for which part of the... How did we connect? Where
No, I'm saying, we're not, I think, I'll tell you where we get it from. No, I'm just saying that Yaakov sent Malachim to elevate Esav, because that's the whole aved of the Jew. To elevate the world, to make a dwelling place for God. So, where we are is because this is the place of my mission, not somewhere else. The possessions that I have are mine, because that's why Hashem gave me this book, or whatever it is, because this is what I need to deal with, what I need to be mavada, to be fine. Okay? Your things are what you got to do. My house is what I got to do. Your house is what you got to do. And everything in it, and everything in life. So the purpose of everything is to elevate it. That's number one. So Torah is coming along over here and says, what's Yaakov Avinu teaching us? There's no inferior things. There's no incidentals. There's nothing that could be wasted. You know, the Torah says there's a law in the Torah about tashchis. You're not allowed to waste things. It's biblically forbidden to waste things. It doesn't say it's biblically forbidden to waste $1,000 things. If it's a penny and you're wasting it, then you're transgressing the commandment in the Torah of Baal Tashchis. So it doesn't say Baal Tashchis, expensive things or whatever.
No.
Whatever you're wasting, you're wasting. Why? Because Hashem gave it to you. There's a purpose of where Hashem gave it to you, not to waste it. It's not to waste it. You have to elevate it. Correct? Mm-hmm. So Yaakov is teaching us as follows. The Pachan Ketanim, Yaakov Avinu is teaching us, again, every story in Torah is a lesson. Yaakov Avinu is teaching us, I might have left small jugs back there, but there's no thing as incidentals. Mm-hmm. Everything is important. Every small, minute detail in incidentals is very important. Now you can extrapolate this a little bit. There's no, again, time, just like in our possessions, there's no waste. The same thing, people say, okay, I have 5 minutes to kill. That's the expression in America. I have 5 minutes, I mean I have nothing to do. For the next 5 minutes, I can kill time.
Time kills itself.
Yeah, time kills itself. But you know what that means? It's similar to the Pachan Ketanim. What do you mean 5 minutes? I told many times, they asked this big scholar, this big Talmud Chacham, how long did it take you to become a Talmud Chacham? He said 5 minutes. So 5 minutes? He said, yeah, 5 minutes here, 5 minutes there, 5 minutes there, 5 minutes there. You know how much time we waste in a day? Just waiting on the phone or whatever it may be? So, the Torah is teaching us that you don't waste, not time. There's nothing Pachan Ketanim. There's no thing as something that's worthless, something that's meaningless. Yaakov Avinu is telling us, in the middle of a war, Yaakov Avinu is teaching us there's nothing to say, okay, forget it, throw it out, who cares about it? Hashem gave it to you. That is part of your mission. And if you don't elevate or refine that minute incidental, meaningless thing, you're not completing your mission in life. Because that thing was given to you for a reason. And the same thing is in time. Or to take it even a step further, there's nothing in life which is meaningless. Everything in life, the way you treat somebody, every action that a person does has to be meaningful. But now, okay, now what happened through all this? And here's another interesting point. Because Yaakov stayed back, the Malachs fought with him.
Right.
I mean, he fought with him because he wanted to fight with him, but that's where he fought with him. What happened? Yaakov Avinu won the battle, and then Yaakov says, I'm not going to let you go until you bless me. Give me a bracha. So he said, the Malach said to him, okay, what's your name? He said, Yaakov. So he said, no, Yaakov's not going to be your name anymore, Kim Yisrael. And he says, why? Ki sarisa im Elokim, because you fought with God, and meaning the Malach, the Rashi says, the Malach and with Esav and Lavan, and you were victorious. Okay? Now, it's very interesting because Yaakov Avinu realizes nothing minor in life, everything in life is important. That's how he merited to change from Yaakov to Yisrael. Later on in the Parsha, Hashem also changes his name from Yaakov to... Later on, Vayishlach, Hashem changes his name from Yaakov to Yisrael. But he says, why was he called Yisrael? Ki sarisa im Elokim v'imanoshim hatuchal. Okay? Because...
Sure looks like it's fighting with God.
No, it says the Malach. You understand, Targum says. They all say, Kadam Hashem Unguvrai, but it means the Malach. He fought the Malach and he won, and he fought Esav and Lavan and he won. But what's interesting, we find, the Gemara says like this, whoever calls Avram is transgressing a negative commandment in the Torah. Because the Torah says, Lo yikari eit shimcha Avram, your name will not be called Avram anymore, only Avraham. He says over here, Lo yayamer eit shimcha, okay? And again, later on in the Parsha, here, in Perek Lamed Hey, it says, Vayemer Elokim shimcha Yaakov, in Perek Lamed Hey, Pasuk Yud. Lo yikari shimcha Yaakov, kim Yisrael yeshmecha. Okay? So the Gemara asks, if so, then if somebody calls Yisrael Yaakov, they should also be transgressing a negative commandment. The same word, your name will not be called Avram anymore, only Avram. Hashem said, Lo yikari shimcha Yaakov, ikim Yisrael yeshmecha. Okay? So the Gemara asks, so why then, if somebody calls Yisrael Yaakov is not transgressing a sin? And the Gemara answers, because in the next pasuk, a few psukim later, the Torah himself calls him Yaakov again. In Perek Lamed Hey 35, pasuk 10, he says your name's changed, and in pasuk 14 it says Vayatsev Yaakov Matseva.
Right.
Yaakov made a Matseva. Okay, and again Viveka Yaakov. The whole time the Torah calls him Yaakov. But this is, so therefore the Gemara says you can't be transgressing a negative commandment because the Torah itself is calling him, Yaakov. But the question is, why is it that the name Yaakov stayed and the name Avram didn't stay? What's more interesting, there's a famous pasuk we say at the beginning of davening every day, Matovo ha'alacha Yaakov, mishkanesacha Yisrael. Famous Matovo, right? Mm. In the same pasuk, Mateva Alacha Yaakov, Mishkanei Sacha Yisrael, which is the Pasuk Bilam said, right? The famous bracha. So why is it that by Yaakov and Yisrael both names stayed, and by Avram to Avraham, the name that was it? The Torah never calls him Avram again.
Good question.
Yeah, but there's a very good answer. The answer is because Avram, when Hashem changed his name from Avram to Avraham, he said, now you're Av Hamain Goyim Nesaticha. Now you're the head of all nations. The Hey means Av Hamon Goyim. So now you're going to be the father of all nations. If you think about it, all the Arabs come from Avram. All the Romans, all come from Esav, Yitzchak, which came from Avram. Avram Avinu is the father of all nations.
And the East.
The East, everybody. Okay? Now, so then that level of Avram doesn't exist anymore. Okay? But in a Jew, there's a level of Yaakov and there's a level of Yisrael. Now, what does it mean there's a level of Yaakov, there's a level of Yisrael? Why was Yaakov Avinu called Yaakov? It says in the Pasuk earlier, in Parshat told us when he was called, because it says, Yodo ochezes ba'akev Esav. He was holding on to the heel of Esav. Yeah? So Yitzchak called him Yaakov. If you think about it, she had been called Akev. Why did he stick a yud at the beginning of the word? So one of the reasons for that is because yud at the beginning of the word, in Hebrew, a yud in grammar, Hebrew grammar, means future, but it also means continuous. Kachi ya'aseiv means so Eiv always does. So the letter yud in Hebrew means two things: future tense, in just Hebrew grammar, and it also means constantly. Now, what does the level of Akev mean? Akev represents the lowest part of the body. The thickest, coarsest part of the body is the heel. The level of Yaakov represents the actions of the Jew. The actions of the Jew, which is not the intellect, not the thought, speech. The action represents the level of Yaakov. Akev means the lowest part of the body, but there's an advantage in the heel over all other parts of the body.
Rough.
It's rough. But it says like this. It says in the Pasuk in Vayishlach, it says, Moshe anav ma'od mikol adam asher pnei adam. Moshe was the most humble person that ever lived on the face of the earth. So it says in the Zohar, what is that pasuk referring to? He says when Moshe Rabbeinu foresaw the generation right before the coming of Mashiach, and the Zohar calls them ikves de Mashiach, the heel, because the heel means right before, right before when you say it's on the heel of something. You mean it's right before it's happening. The Zohar calls our generation ikves de Mashiach, the heel right before the coming of Mashiach. Why? Simply it means because Mashiach's coming, very soon. But Akev also means the heel, the lowest part. So why was Moshe most humble when he saw our generation? Because Moshe Rabbeinu's generation, the Medrash calls it, and Kabbalah Chassidus has a field day with it, it's called Dor Deya, a Dor of Das. They understood. They saw all the miracles. They saw godliness. They saw Adech Hashem Elokecha. They saw Matan Torah. They saw Kriyas Yamsuf. They saw godliness. The concealed levels of godliness became revealed. I mean, these guys saw really unbelievable levels of Yiddishkeit, of godliness. We don't see anything. We don't see miracles. You have to meditate. A miracle. Yeah, we wake up in the morning. It's a miracle. But we don't see these great miracles that Hashem did. We do. Everything is going out to salt today is a miracle. But anyway, so what does it mean? So Chassidus says like this: why was Moshe so felt inferior when he saw generation? Because for a Jew that sees miracles on a daily basis, well, clouds, all that, to believe in God and do mitzvahs, it's obvious. When you don't have those miracles, and Jews are still going to Shul to daven, and Jews are still putting on tefillin and lighting Shabbos candles and kosher, and that's an unbelievable thing. And to use like Hasidic lingo in this, can you imagine if Hashem would tell the head, let me preface it. Hashem said, Anecha Hashem Elokecha, singular. I am God, your God. And the Ten Commandments are also singular. Why do you say Anecha Hashem Elokechem? In Shema we say Ani Hashem Elokechem, plural. Why the Ten Commandments were given singular? So there's a lot of reasons. But one rabbinic practical reason that the rabbis always say, because can you imagine Hashem is speaking to a group of 1,000 people, and he says, okay, I want you to do this. How do Jews think? He doesn't mean me, he means everybody else. He doesn't mean now, he means later, next year. You know the way Jews think. Hey, he means everybody but me. He doesn't mean me. So Hashem said singular tense. He said, I am God, you're God. You don't steal, you don't kill, I'm talking to you. So Hashem says, I'm covering everybody. When Moshe Rabbeinu saw, so can you imagine Hashem tells the head, okay, I want you to put your head into boiling hot water. The head is intellect. So what's the head going to think? Okay, no problem, I'll cool off the water first. Maybe he wants me to cool off the water first. Maybe I should wait a day or two. Maybe. The intellect gets in the way. The heel, pardon the expression, is brainless. There's no seichel in the heel. Hashem says to the heel, jump into boiling hot water, the heel's going to do it. There's no understanding. It's what's called Kabbalah's oil. Acceptance of God's yoke. Right? Acceptance of God's sovereignty, God's whatever it is. Okay? Intellect gets in the way of serving God. Because intellect says maybe not me, maybe you, maybe, whatever, all these things. When Moshe Rabbeinu saw the generation right before the coming of Mashiach, and he saw that the Jews are still doing Torah mitzvahs, he said, wow, I don't know if I could do that. That's what, according to the Zayt, that's what he means. When he saw what was the thing that he saw about our generation? That he felt inferior, humble. The answer is humility, and the fact that he was humble is the fact that Hashem, that he saw Jews are still keeping Torah mitzvahs. There's a Chassidic discourse the previous Rebbe writes. This was right after the war, World War II. He writes in the discourse the fact that Jews are still keeping mitzvahs after what happened right after the Holocaust. You know what happened to Judaism, right? It went spiraling down. People were giving up. Okay, where was God? The previous Rebbe says in a Chassidic discourse right after the Holocaust, the fact that Jews are still doing mitzvahs is an awesome thing for Hashem. Hashem says, wow, I owe it to them, so to speak. To understand what I'm saying. He owed it, because how could Jews still do that? And yet they're still doing Torah mitzvahs. So Moshe Rabbeinu, when he saw our generation right before Ikvis Sidim Shicha, so therefore, Akev represents action, self-sacrifice, like the heel. You're not serving Hashem with intellect, you're serving Hashem with... That's the name Yaakov. Yisrael represents intellect. Yisrael is, if you switch around the letters, the word Yisrael is two words, Li Rosh. Take the letters Yisrael is Li Rosh. Or Sar Kel. And again, Yisrael is Sar Kel with a yud at the beginning, meaning you're the officer of Hashem. That's a lofty level. It's not like Yaakov, which is the lowest of the lowest, the heel. this is Sar Kel, officer of Hashem, or Li Rosh, or the head. It's unbelievable. By the way, just in passing, it's a beautiful thing. If I'm not sure, the Baal Turim says this all the way at the end of Chumash, but I think that there's a word, that Yisrael, the word Yud Shin Reish Aleph Lamed, is the name of all the Avos and Imoris.
No.
Look, Yud is Yaakov and Yitzchak, Shin is Sarah, Reish is Rivka and Rachel, Aleph is Avram, and Lamed is Leah.
Well,
So the name Yisrael, just the name Yisrael, has Yaakov and Yitzchak, and Shin is Sarah, and Reish is Rivka and Rachel, and Aleph is Avram, and Lamed is Leah.
Also, there's something with Yashar, right?
Yasher Kel, there are a million but anyway, so the name Yisrael, by the way, represents Jews on a lofty intellectual level. So these two things are still existing now in the Jew. There's a level of the Jew which is Akev, Yaakov, action, and there's a level of the Jew which is the intellect. Which, by the way, in a deeper sense, this represents the hand tefillin and the head tefillin. The hand tefillin you put on your hand, that represents action. The head tefillin you put on the head, that represents intellect. Okay, so you have both things. And by the way, which one do you put on first? The hand. There's an advantage in Yaakov over Yisrael. Because Yisrael, again, is the intellectual. It's maybe it doesn't mean me, maybe whatever it is. But Yaakov already refers to the Akev, to the heel, and that's an unbelievable concept. And that's why the Pasuk is saying that even though Hashem changed his name to Yisrael because he fought with the angel, nevertheless, he still has a level of Yaakov. Every Jew needs action. And the action is what counts. And the action, by the way, of the simple, non-learned Jews, the Baal Shem Tov would say was a greater pleasure by Hashem than the intellectual, egotistic work of the scholars. Simple people. That's why we said, wine represents bina, understanding. Water represents yoke. Where was the real simcha's Beis HaShoeva? When they poured water on the Mizbeach, on Sukkot, that was the real simcha. Because action represents a much greater level.
Oh, that's why in Yud Dalet he set up a matzeva.
Correct. Okay, one last thing. It's gonna.
Is there a change in his soul actually when he turns from Israel to Israel?
Yeah, he became greater again.
It's like it's a whole new thing? Or?
Yeah, a whole new life. Okay, but there's a very interesting story that needs to be discussed in certain parts of it, and we'll finish it. Okay, chapter 34, Dinah goes out for a walk, she gets raped by Shechem, okay? Brothers are fuming, chapter 34, okay? Shechem falls in love with her, takes her, rapes her, and the brothers came home, they're fuming, okay? So they come and they say, okay, maybe we can make a shidduch over here, between us and you. So the brothers say, and Shechem is, we're giving you a lot of ksuba, we'll give you tons of money, we'll be brothers with you, business, it's a good business investment. Mm-hmm. The brothers say, listen, we ain't giving our daughter to somebody who's not circumcised, okay? Go circumcise the whole city, okay? And then we're going to do business. Okay? Mm-hmm. So Shimon and Levi took their swords and they wiped out the whole city on the third day. Okay? Yeah, sorry so far. And then there's one more detail of the story. Okay. What's more interesting, the Medrash says, Rashi says it later on in Chumash, Dinah got pregnant from Shechem. She gave birth to a baby. It was an embarrassment to keep her in the home at that time, those years. So they sent her away with an amulet on her hand that said, "You are from Yaakov's house." She ended up in Potiphar's house. Potiphar adopted her, Osnas, and she married Yosef. And we had two Shvatim, Menashe and Ephraim. Okay, that was, who was Yosef's wife? Who was the mother of Menashe and Ephraim? This girl, Osnas, that was the child of Shechem and Dinah. Okay, so let's understand a few things over here. Okay, and then we're going to make a sholem to the whole story. Number one, why did God allow this to happen to Dinah? I mean, come on, she's a holy girl. She's a holy girl. Why did Hashem allow this to happen to her? Number one. Secondly, we need to understand what gave Shimon and Levi halachic right to kill out the whole city.
Did they have the right?
Well, they did it. Yaakov was upset. He said, "What are the goyim going to say?" But they did it. And not only that, I'll tell you even something else. We know, everybody knows, that a bar mitzvah boy becomes a bar mitzvah 13. Okay? What's the source of that? It says in the Mishnah in Pirkei Avos, 5th parak, at the end, Ben Shlosh Esrei LeMitzvahs. We know he's bar mitzvah. Where do they know that from? So there's two sources. Either Hashem told Moshe Rabbeinu at Har Sinai, it's called Halacha Moshe Sinai, a bar mitzvah kid is a 13. Girls are more mature than boys. Listen, ladies, once in your life you're going to hear something good. Women are more mature than men, so the girls become bas mitzvah 12. Okay? Not like certain parts of Judaism that want to make girls bas mitzvah 13. They want to be like the men. Fools. God said you're mature quicker, you're obligated, you're more mature to have the yoke of mitzvahs earlier. Why do you want to do it later? Okay, it doesn't make sense. But anyway. Then there's a second source that we learn out, somebody's bar mitzvah 13. And this is from Shimon and Levi. When it says, here, chapter Lamed Dalet 34, pasuk 35. When they're, after the bris, the third day, they were all in pain. Right? They took their sword and they killed out the whole city. The Torah calls them Ish. The Torah calls them a man. And they were according to just the chronological ages, there were 13 at the time. If there were 13 at the time, and the Torah calls him Ish, a man, so from here we see that a bar mitzvah boy is at 13.
Which pasuk was that?
25.
25.
Chafei.
Got it. Oh, Chafei, got it. Mm-hmm.
It says, Ish Chaba, each man took a sword. There were 13, Levi was 13 at the time. The Torah calls him Ish, a man. So from here we learn out, the Mefarshim say, Rashi brings it down in Pirkei Avos, Chuvas Sarosh, a lot of places, that a boy becomes bar mitzvah at 13 because he's called a man.
Well, isn't this something basic that Hashem would have told Moshe?
Well, one opinion says, yeah, but where do we learn now? Where do we see a source of it in Chumash?
Well, this is the only source we have?
Besides the fact that Hashem told Moshe Rabbeinu Har Sinai.
Oh, wow.
So the obvious question is, there's no better place to learn it out from? Come on. You want to teach us a kid's bar mitzvah. So don't do it from Shimon and Levi killing out a whole city. So let's make a challenge over here. Shimon and Levi had a halachic right to kill out the city. You know why? Because the law is a non-Jew has 7 Noahide laws. If they transgress any one of the 7 Noahide laws, they get killed. For instance, a guy is not allowed to steal. If he steals, he gets killed. When Bezdin was in power. So the commentary said like this.
Court of law.
They were supposed to set up a court of law. Shechem raped Dinah. They should have tried him. Infidelity or rape or whatever you want to call it. Okay? And they didn't. That's one of the 7 Noahide laws, to set up a judiciary system. Dinah. So therefore they had a right to kill out the whole city. That's why they did it. But let's go a little bit deeper of what's going on over here. It says, the Or HaChaim HaKadosh brings this down later on in Chumash. Shechem was the reincarnation, he was first, Shechem. But you know, one of the 10 martyrs was called Rabbi Chanina ben Tradian, who happened to be the father-in-law of Rabbi Meir, but the famous Bruria was the daughter of Rabbi Chanina ben Tradian. Rabbi Chanina ben Tradian was one of the 10 martyrs that were killed in the time, together with Rabbi Akiva. So the Or HaChaim brings down that in Kabbalah it says, before it says, when the brothers were negotiating a deal with Shechem, they said like this. Here. Barak Lamedalit Pasuk Chaf Aleph. The Shechem is talking, right? To sell the goods to their people. He says, they're complete with us, let them sit in the land and do business. The land will be open for them. Let's do it. So it says in Kabbalah, this is what the Or HaChaim HaKadosh brings down. The word Rachavas stands for Rabbi Chanina ben Tradian.
Oh my goodness.
Okay? Rabbi Chanina ben Tradian. So Shechem was the neshama of Rabbi Chanina ben Tradian. So Shechem wasn't stam a low life. Like we said, all these guys in Chumash are very lofty souls. So Shechem was the neshama before, but he was that neshama of Rabbi Chanina ben Tradian. So Hashem wanted, this is all part of the thing, that he should rape Dinah. He was a lofty man, holy man. He raped Dinah to have a baby, to become Mrs. Yosef, Osnas, to be able to have Menashe and Ephraim.
Whoa.
Because he couldn't go through a normal channel?
Because like he said, light in the door, like we learned all the other stuff. These super great things can't come normally. And not only that, if you think about it, okay, he raped her, why did Hashem make her pregnant? I mean, think about it, why did Dinah deserve this? But based on this, it's understood, because there's a whole plan going on here. Just like Leighton has 2 daughters. Right? Created David HaMelech Mashiach and the whole thing. So
Did she make any mistake in putting herself
she was like mother, like daughter. She went out to
talk to people or something?
talk, yeah. So anyway, so it's like this. So
She was talkative? Is that what it is?
yes, she was talkative. David HaMelech says in Tillim at the beginning, Kol kvuda bas melech panima. The honor of a Jewish woman is to be quiet, not running around all over the place. Didn't have shopping. They didn't have malls in those days. The women had nowhere to go.
Any other halacha derived from there?
One second. So this whole story with Shechem, by the way, now everything fits into place. They were obligated to get killed because they didn't set up a court system. Why did Hashem make this happen to Dinah? Because Shechem was a very lofty neshama that had to father Osnas, that would be Yosef's wife and the mother of Menashe and Ephraim. Okay? And then this explains now also why we learn out of Bar Mitzvah from Shimon and Levi. Why? When a kid becomes Bar Mitzvah, he needs to know, what did Shimon and Levi do? Let's analyze the situation just simply from their story. A Jewish daughter was defiled, right? And like Shimon and Levi said to Yaakov, Achzeinu nasas achasenu. Should we make our daughter a prostitute free for all? We're not tolerating that. Our daughter was defiled. We're going to do something about it, right? And you think about it, there were 2 13-year-old kids.
Oh,
And they were, okay, but the Betuch they were certain Yaakov's chusta, they're going to be okay. But Yaakov was angry with them for doing it. So they said, a Jewish girl is being defiled, again, spiritually, physically, it doesn't matter. We cannot sit back idly and do nothing about it. This is a message for a Bar Mitzvah kid. You're becoming Bar Mitzvah, you're becoming a man, you should know the source of where we learn it out from is from Shimon and Levi going to take a sword and standing up for Yiddishkeit. Not burying yourself in the sand and let whatever happens happen. So this is a message for a bar mitzvah boy. The message for the bar mitzvah boy is you got to go out sometimes and go take a sword and go fight for Yiddishkeit. Especially when Jewish kids are captured. Spiritually. They're captured spiritually, physically. You can't just sit down and do nothing. You got to do something about it.
Beautiful.
By the way, there's a very interesting, the commentaries ask, what's the difference between the two reasons why a bar mitzvah kid becomes bar mitzvah 13? We said either from Shimon and Levi that they're called man, right? Mm-hmm. Or Hashem told Moshe Rabbeinu on Har Sinai. Mm-hmm. There's a very fundamental difference. It's remarkable, again, it's so simple, we don't think about it. When does a guy become obligated in the 7 Noach laws? At what age? We become bar mitzvah, right?
Yeah, but
at what age, think about it, a guy who desecrates one of the 7 mitzvahs gets killed, yeah? At what age is a non-Jew obligated to keep mitzvahs?
3.
I don't know.
It depends where we learn it out from. If we learn it out that the Torah called Shimon and Levi, Ish, a man, so then it's a biological thing. You're 13, you're a man. According to that opinion, by the way, a guy after 13 is obligated in keeping 7 Noach laws. Under it, not. Below it, not. If you say the Torah was given to Moshe Rabbeinu at Har Sinai, the rule in halacha is all the amounts that exist in Torah only apply to Jews. Like first, I'll give you an example. A guy is not allowed to eat avim and a chai live limb off an animal, one of the 7 Noach laws. A Jew to be chai has to eat an ounce. An ounce of it, a kazayis. A guy eats a drop, he's chayiv misa.
So why do they make such a big deal if you eat a bug by accident in a fruit or something?
No, that's in juice because it's a whole thing. It's not nullified.
That's not the same as this?
No. But if you hold, it came from Moshe Rabbeinu at Har Sinai. Moshe Rabbeinu said, God said, the age of a boy is bar mitzvah. That only applies to Jews. What would be the din by a guy?
Moment to born.
No. As soon as the non-Jew kid, there's no amount. As soon as this kid understands he cannot steal, he's obligated in not stealing.
Right.
The second he's old enough to understand, and every kid would be different.
Right.
Every kid would be different. But that matters if you learn it out from Shimon and Levi, because Shimon and Levi ish. Thursday it's a biological thing. He's a man, you're obligated in mitzvahs.
So what is it if we go based on the Moshe thing?
Huh? What did the Bezdin do? I don't know. I don't know who the halacha is like.
I'm
Both
saying if you go based on the other assumption,
Bezdin would have to evaluate the person, see if he understood
for
what.
every sin, for every person,
Yeah.
for every case.
Yeah, yeah.
Boy.
By an angel. By Jews, it's bar mitzvah, bas mitzvah. That's it. No other thing involved. But the bottom line is with this, that a kid has to understand that sometimes you have to, it's the same thing. You know where we learn out a minyan from? 10 people? From the Meraglim. Yeah. Again, there's no better place to learn it out from. Again, it's the same point. What did the Meraglim teach? What was their sin? They wanted to stay in the desert, learn Torah and daven all day. They didn't want to go into Eretz Yisrael and start plowing fields. That was the sin of the Meraglim. They were very great people. When you daven, there's no plowing field, there's no business. You're davening, you daven. You're completely in the desert, nothing else. So these are all the things. Okay, that's it for tonight. Everybody have a great week. Mitzvah Shem Wednesday in Zoom is 8 o'clock Haloch and Tanya. And Mitzvah Shem next Monday night is probably Yutas Kiss. We might have a Zoom for Brengen for the class, but we'll figure it out. Until then, everybody have a great week and only good news.
Thank you.
Take care.
Thank you so much.
The angel is the Malach HaMavet?
No. No, the Malach HaBeisa.
Esa was different?
Yeah.
Where'd you get which pasuk was Chanid ben Trajan in?
Rachvas Yadayim.
Which one is that?
1 second.
It's just like the angel of that nation, basically.
Yeah. Yeah. No, 125, 1 second. It's Parakla Medalid, Pasik 21, Chaf Aleph.
Got it.
And then this is the first time we see the term Yabok, right?
Yeah.
In the term. So he goes across the Yabok River to pick up some inconsequential stuff. On the way back, it's the biggest test he has, right?
Correct, he's fighting with Esav.
And he's fighting with Esau. And Yabok is actually one of Hashem's names, right?
Yeah.